Welcome into Triple Zeros. I'm your host, Josh Buckalter. Follow me on Twitter at JoshGBuck. Hit with the Facebook page, Clocker Sports website, clockersports.com. And the email address is clockersports@gmail.com. Jumping right into it, man. It was a big weekend for the sports, really. NFL and NBA both had action going on. First and foremost, I have to say shout out to Alec Mills of the Chicago Cubs getting a no-hitter for my hometown team. Gotta celebrate that any chance to get. But on top of that, you had a lot of football action as the opening week of the NFL continued after we had that great game on Thursday night. And you had NBA playoffs too, which admittedly I missed. But nonetheless, it spells trouble for one of the teams involved. Now, starting off with the NFL action, I have to say and lead off with my boy Cam. Killer Cam got himself a win. This is a much debated topic. He is the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots now after years with the Carolina Panthers, obviously. Tom Brady, 20 years in New England, now down in Tampa Bay. And it was a tale of two different cities, two different teams, two different quarterbacks this past Sunday. But starting with Cam, he looked pretty decent as a runner. He had 15 rushes, 75 yards, got 2 touchdowns. He was all right as a passer, 155 yards, but he completed 79% of his passes. What was most impressive was that they tailored the offense to him. They are clearly making an effort to do what fits him best, what suits him best, and not trying to put a square peg into a round hole. So I think it's good to see that for Cam. Good to see him still being able to run. And, I think eventually they're going to wish that they had more weapons, but can't really argue with the fact that what they have right now is working for them. So hopefully they can keep that up, and hopefully Cam can make it count because, man, that's my boy. You my boy, Blue. I just want to see him do well. Now, continuing on with that one, it was against the Dolphins, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. The win was 21-11, and with that, you kind of wonder how long can Ryan Fitzpatrick, who threw 3 interceptions in this game, how long can he hold off Tua Tagovailoa? I know that they said they wanted Tua to sit, but they always say that's like, that means nothing. I mean that means I'm gonna sit him until I have to play him. 3 picks in week 1. Again, it's a stout Patriots defense, but still, that's not what you want to have for your veteran quarterback trying to show your rookie the ropes. Tua can go in there and throw 3 picks right now. I can go in there and throw 3 picks. I don't need you to show me how to do that, sir. So keep an eye on that. Tua might be coming in sooner rather than later. But moral of the story here is never count out Superman. Superman is now Captain America. Cam Newton, first win as a Patriot, 21-11. Hopefully this is the start of good things. They looked happy. He looked to enjoy. At the end of the game, you had some Dolphins players trying to snatch his chain. Raekwon McMillan, Shaq Lawson too, I believe, trying to pull off the Aqib Talib. Cam wasn't having it though. Cam is not Michael Crabtree. Cam got about 4 inches and about 40 pounds on Michael Crabtree. So that wasn't going to work out the same way. On top of that, he had his whole team there. So it just was a bad look. It's not good. Not good. That's bull. Especially when you just lost. Just deal with take your L and go home, buddy. Former Patriots quarterback Tom Brady found himself in a new situation, we'll call it, down in Tampa Bay with the Bucs. He lost to the New Orleans Saints 34-23, and Bruce Arians called him out on his 2 picks. He completed 64% of his passes through 239 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. He also rushed for a touchdown, but Arians, calls them out for his picks, saying that they were his fault and not on anybody. He's got to be better. Backtracked later on, saying that one of the picks, one that was thrown to Mike Evans, was actually on Evans, and that Evans should have broke the route or continue the route. There are people looking into, how is Brady going to deal with the coach calling him out? And Brady, to his credit, just kind of, laughed it off. I don't think he's going to care about that. I think more than anything, what we saw was the protection woes of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers popping up, and something that people have been talking about all offseason. It's not a surprise. I don't know, what they thought was going to happen. It wasn't great last year. They hoped that they would do better. They hoped that Brady being able to get the ball out of his hands would help take some of the burden off of the linemen, but they don't seem to have adjusted their scheme enough to that. It seems like when they went to the hurry up and they started letting him manipulate things, because you saw a lot of Patriot plays out of the Buccaneers on Sunday. Then you saw some Scotty Miller getting more involved and stuff like that, but by and large, it seemed like they were trying to ask Brady to stay back there way too long. He also had a fumble. not good. He looked very ordinary, and they're saying he looked 43. I don't know about that. I just think that he looked like he didn't have a lot of time. And the Saints defense is good. Let's not act like they're not a good unit. And again, they're also a team. This is Brady's first year with them. So, I mean, it just wasn't good. It also wasn't good for Phillip Rivers. Rivers completed 78% of his passes, 363 yards, but he threw a touchdown and 2 picks. Now, when trailing by 1 score in the final 6 minutes last season, Phillip Rivers was 26 of 59, 286 yards, 1 touchdown, and 5 interceptions, 29.3 passer rating. That's per Nat Newell of the Indy Sports Star. I say that because one of those interceptions came in crunch time. And, you know, this is what you saw with the Chargers. They just had so many weapons and played such a style that it oftentimes was a shootout. So they were able to kind of keep themselves in it. Indy doesn't really play that way. And I thought that was an interesting signing anyway, because the mentality of Phillip Rivers is kind of anti-Frank Reich and what they do down there. But another interesting one from Nat Newell, again, down by 1 score, less than 6 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. Phillip Rivers has the 8th worst passer rating since 2010. Number 1, Andrew Luck. So the Colts went from first to worst, well, near the worst, but bad enough. And it's interesting because Chris Ballard has been really good down there, but this is probably a big misfire. I think I questioned going this route in the first place, going with Rivers. Again, clashing styles, but I thought that it would go. And again, this is week 1 too. Let me stop overreacting. This is what you do though, right? After the first week, you got to make assumptions based off of that. Still, it just doesn't seem like what Indy wants to do. Indy seems like a ball control group. That's what they have been. Maybe that's just because of the personnel. But that's not what you're going to get with Phillip Rivers. You're going to get some risk. You're going to get some gunslinger, like I said, and you're going to get some of the cleanest smack talk you've ever heard in your life. However, they did lose Marlon Mack for the season to a leg injury. Jonathan Taylor, rookie second-round pick, is poised to step up according to his head coach. He's ready to do so. Good for him, but poor circumstances that it had to come under. So hate to see that happen. And more uplifting news, Kyler Murray for MVP train has officially left the station, folks. If you weren't on it already, I don't need you to get on it now. I've started it. I am the conductor. We have a full container of coal. We are ready to. We chugging along for chugga. We are gone. The Kyler for MVP train is gone. They won. The Arizona Cardinals won 24-20 over the Super Bowl loser San Francisco 49ers. Murray completed 65% of his passes, 230 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, but he also had 13 carries for 91 yards and a touchdown. There's some articles floating around complaining about the kneel downs, keeping him from getting 100 yards. But more importantly, Daniel Jeremiah pointed this out. Murray ran the ball 13 times for 91 yards. He slid, went out of bounds, or scored on 12 of the 13 runs. He was only tackled 1 time, pulled down by his shirt. He has mastered the ability to protect himself on the move. It's teaching tape for athletic QBs. If he's able to extend these plays and extend his career for this long, he's going to be extremely dangerous. He's small, and while that might seem like a detriment, it can also be an asset because you're not able to get a clean hit on him. Clearly, he can move. When you see him moving, his little feet are he's out there. He's flying. And it's exciting to watch. And of course, he's got DeAndre Hopkins throw the ball too. That's always a nice thing to have there. According to Andrew Siciliano, Kyler Murray was one of 5 quarterbacks to lead his team in rushing on Sunday. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, and Cam Newton were the others. Those quarterbacks were 5-0 this week. Like I said, they beat the defending NFC champs, and this is it. Not only were the stats impressive as a whole, the passing numbers might not look great, but when you combine them with the rushing numbers, it looks really good. And then the situation where they had to rally back down, and that run that he had for the touchdown, the 30 plus. Oh my, I want to say it was 40 plus, and I don't want to overextend it. The kid's special, and the way this team plays, they're going to be in a lot of games, and this won't be their last upset that they get over a big name team. I'm not sure how far it has to go for him to get it, but I really think that he has a legitimate shot at MVP this season. And I just want to be able to say that I was the first one who said it, and I've been saying it for a couple of months now. So just reiterating it now. that we've seen it and people can remember. Every time he does, I'll be here just like last season with the Lamar train. I'm on the Kyler Murray train, and we are about to take this one all the way to an MVP this year. First pick last year to first pick this year, Joe Burrow narrowly loses out in his first game in the NFL, 16-13. People are saying he should have won that game. I don't know if he should have won, but he should have had another chance to try to win. He drove the Bengals down to scoring position when kicker Randy Bullock pulled up and injured on a kick, missed the field goal, chip shot, really 30 some odd yards out, missed it, and that's how the cookie crumbles. And he became just another statistic Joe Burrow did of rookie quarterbacks to come in and lose their first game. The Bengals have a lot of work to do, and I say this as a person who has Joe Mixon on his fantasy football team. They have a lot of work to do because there is a lot there that just isn't happening. The offensive line doesn't seem to be able to block too well. Now, granted, they were going up against the Chargers, who have a very solid front four. I'm not gonna act like there's some pushovers, but you would like to see a little bit more resistance, a little bit more push up front from those guys. They invested in that line last year. Cincinnati did, so they need to get some more push out of there. But Burrow got in, connected with AJ Green. Showed some rapport with the tight ends, and like I said, drove them down. Showed some of that what we saw down at LSU, the ability to in the crunch to play with composure and poise and manipulate his offense, his team down the field in a timely fashion. It was great. It was great to see. Wish we would have had a chance to come away with the W, but it was really good to see him get that experience. And you just know the kid's going to have a really special career. It just seems like he's going to fit right in. Cincinnati got to get something around him, though, because you don't want to see him get wasted away like so many quarterbacks before him. Yeah. From quarterback to quarterback of the defense, Jamal Adams and his Seattle Seahawks won 38-25 over the Atlanta Falcons, Super Bowl losers of a couple of years ago. Adams had 12 total tackles and 1 sack. When asked, how he's feeling, he says he's not used to his offense scoring 30 points. And I went back and checked. I said he can't be. It's an NFL offense. They had to have done it somewhat well. When it happened, the Jets scored 4 times, 38 plus points. They had 34, but 38 plus points, like he said. And of those 4, one of those times wasn't by the offense. So the 38 points that the Seahawks scored was the most that he has scored since 2017. His offense. So it's just a nice little quip for him to come back. And then also he got to say that he wasn't bored in response to Greg Williams, defensive coordinator of the Jets, who said that he would be bored in the Seahawks system where he just had to sit back there and zone. He said, "No, I wasn't bored. I had a sack." Good for him. Good that he's in a good place, and I think that's a perfect defense for him. He can go and replace Cam Chancellor as the enforcer back there. Love Jamal Adams' game. He was supposed to be a Bear. Going to be salty about that one for a long, long time. Dallas Cowboys played the Sunday night game. They lost 2017 to the Los Angeles Rams, where the Rams just kind of shoved the ball down their throat and did whatever they wanted. And the Cowboys, for all their efforts with Ezekiel Elliott, couldn't seem to keep anything going long. Couldn't stop leaky faucet and couldn't sustain many drives when they needed to. They also suffered 2 very critical injuries. First up, Leighton Vander Esch, now middle linebacker, suffered a broken collarbone. He does have a chance to return this season, but he's going on a very disturbing path, much like his predecessor, Sean Lee. And you just hate to see a lot of head and neck injuries for a guy who's going to be putting his head and neck in some very precarious situations in his career. So it's something to keep an eye on for him because he's already missed a lot of time as it is with injuries. And like I just said, it's like Sean Lee already, a guy who has struggled to stay on the field as it is now for the Cowboys, which is why they've had to invest so heavily into the linebackers as they have. On the other side of the ball, you had Blake Jarwin, starting tight end, tear his Achilles. He's done for the season. But this spurred Mike Tannenbaum, former GM of the New York Jets and executive of the Miami Dolphins, to suggest the trade of Zach Martin for Zach Ertz. Yeah, Zach Martin, the offensive guard, for Zach Ertz the tight end of the Philadelphia Eagles. Ertz had a subpar game in comparison, especially to his teammate Dallas Goedert. There's a contract stalemate going on with the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's led to speculation that Ertz could be traded, especially after you saw how Goddard was used. I would just say that Dallas would be foolish to do this. There's no reason to give up. First of all, what are you doing without Martin? Like, that doesn't make any sense. I get you want the extra pass catcher, but I'm not trading Zach Martin for Zach Ertz. That's not an equal trade, even if that is your biggest need, because the longevity you're going to get out of Martin far surpasses the usefulness that you're going to get out of Ertz. He's not a great blocker. He's a solid receiver. He was more of a technician than anything, and I know those guys age very well. Look at Jason Witten. I'm not trading an all-pro guard, especially when my team is built around the running game. Now, they're trying to transition to more of a passing attack, as you saw a lot of 3-receiver sets. Heavy involvement of CeeDee Lamb. That was cool. But, yeah, I'm not going. And you kind of see why Tannenbaum is a former GM. That's not a good idea. That's not a good deal. Not at all. But some early hot seaters would be a couple of guys that we mentioned here. Adam Gase of the Jets, Dan Quinn of the Falcons, who got spanked by the Seahawks. Now, we'll see how their season goes, but they seem to struggle with good competition, and then they lose some head scratchers. That team, I think, peaked in that Super Bowl. I still don't know how they made it there because I thought they were overrated that year. I do like the new uniforms, though. I have to admit that because I was hard on them when they first got announced, but I kind of like them. They're not that bad. And then Matt Patricia, who took on my Chicago Bears and went with them. Patricia is a questionable coach. Now, people are questioning the 55-yard field goal. When you have Matt Prater, it's not as bad. You do leave the offense with a short field, though, and you're up 10. They need 2 scores anyway, and making it 13-10, 13 to 3 is not, or was it 13-3? Yeah, that wouldn't do anything at that point. Anyway, the field goal was pointless because you need. I mean, I guess it forces them to get a touchdown, but if they get a touchdown, then you've lost. You don't force their hand. I think you kind of force them to ease up. If you ease up and go for the punt, they just try to go for the field goal. Whatever, didn't happen. I'm not even really sure how to quantify it or how to put it gently, other than he might not be good for the job. When asked in post game how he felt about his team blowing multiple late game leads under his leadership, and if that's a reflection of his coaching, he referred to his record as a defensive coordinator for the Patriots in a play that happened 2-3 years ago in the Super Bowl. Now, granted, it was a high leverage situation, a very big play, as he referred to it as one of the biggest plays in NFL history, referring to Malcolm Butler's breakup. But that does you no good as a head coach. And so I think if you're still holding to that approach from years ago, first of all, the NFL has changed, but if you're still holding on to that approach as a defensive coordinator now that you're a head coach, well, you've already lost. And they lost to the Bears 23-27. Again, they had a 23-6 lead in and saw the Bears score 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns. Mitchell Trubisky threw 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns. When that happens, listen, he's lucky he didn't get fired right after that game. They didn't start Jeff Okudah because reasons he's not ready yet. They're the 3rd overall pick in the NFL draft. They lost 2 of their starting cornerbacks in the fourth quarter. You had Matthew Stafford throw a pick on the ball that was trying to, I don't want to say forced, but it was kind of forced into Marvin Jones, deflected by Eddie Jackson, picked off by Kyle Fuller. And then you had to cap it all off, DeAndre Swift dropping a pass in the end zone that would have won the game. It's about 6 seconds left on the clock when he would have come down with it. Now, he's a rookie and he's a running back, but he turned his eyes before he caught the ball. Got to look it in, got to secure the catch before you try to turn and run. He tried to turn and run, and it did not end well. I don't care. The Bears won the game. There's a lot to talk about, and I wrote about it in some takeaways for Last Run on Pro Football, talking about the Bears might need deodorizer. As Matt Nagy said, he will not let the wind deodorize some of the things they need to clean up, but they got the win. They might need deodorizer, but they got the win. Last Word on Pro Football, check out the article. Did some takeaways. I like the personnel usage. I like the mixing up of the backfield. We've heard a lot about getting a lot of 3 headed attacks with Mike Davis last year, and it ends up always being Cohen and Montgomery, and a poor usage of the two, and then two others sprinkled in. Well, they've seeming to have narrowed that down to the three, and I don't say specific uses because you've seen all three have some extra juice every which way, and that might be the most pleasant surprise. You saw Montgomery, Cohen, and Patterson all get a nice mix of pass plays and run plays and not really feel like anybody was being forced into the situation. Now, there were some draws or some tosses that I wish would have been some dive plays, but whatever. I am wondering, though, if maybe Patterson is what we want Cohen to be, in that the threat of his running is a lot more significant than that of Cohen, because Patterson might run somebody over. Cohen's not doing that. Now, he's faster and probably a lot shiftier, but in the way that the Bears ran, at least the way they ran Montgomery a lot up the middle. You can see some of the charts and next gen stats. They ran him mostly between the tackles, and Patterson can do that, I think, much better than Cohen can. As long as they stay away from being predictable in how they're using any of them, I think they'll have a lot more success this season than they did the last few years, because it was pretty predictable what they were trying to do. Darnell Mooney made a nice standout. He didn't make the article, but I just want to shout him out because he made a nice few plays, and I think we're going to see a lot more of him, which says a lot about Riley Ridley and Javon Williams, that Mooney comes in right away and gets a lot of tick. Ted Ginn might just literally be a mentor for him because they seem to want to get him involved. Anthony Miller came on late. He needs to be consistent. He only played like 42% of the snaps, something like that. It was very few snaps comparatively, and needs to get his head on straight. I think that's a route running issue. They're going to talk about it being a fundamental thing for him, and him need to clean up some mental mistakes. But if he can provide that compliment to Allen Robinson, that's going to be nice. And then, look, the defense had holes. You want to see Quinn out there, but they stepped up when they had to, and they got lucky when they needed to. Not going to make any bones about that. But Matthew Stafford's a top 5 quarterback. Drops happen. I'm not going to apologize for them getting lucky. That's not the way it goes. But they do need to clean some things up, and they need Quinn back because they need some pressure on the outside. Hicks got the only sack on the middle, but Mack was on the sideline for some plays, and maybe that's because he was tired because it's early, no preseason. But the pass rush did not look good for most of the game until the Lions essentially lioned all over themselves. I also liked that Jalen Johnson, who got baptized early on by Marvin Jones, came back and had deflection. Now, it was a desperation play, but it could have been caught, and he knocked it down. Kept his head and made sure he made the smart play and didn't get abused. Danny Trevathan, on the other hand, was getting crossed up by T.J. Hockenson all game. All that stuff is in the article, Last Run Pro Football. Be sure to check that out. Bears may need deodorizer, but they still get the win. Switching gears over to the NBA, there was a playoff game, and I didn't catch it live, but I did check the follow-up on it, and I just have to say, I talked about it last episode, and I'm going to have to reiterate again. If this is the Clippers that we're going to see, they're in trouble. They're not going to win this game. I don't have any faith in them whatsoever because they shouldn't even be in this situation in the first place. See, Game 7, first of all, Denver's already been in a Game 7. They're going to be prepared for this in a way that I don't think the Clippers are, because you just can't be unless you've played together under these circumstances. Now, first of all, people have been lamenting how laid back the Clippers team is. They act like they've won something, and the only person who has is Paul George. Or I'm sorry, it's Paul George. It's Kawhi Leonard. So it doesn't make sense for everybody else to be as lackadaisical as they are. And they lost the last game 111-98. They got lucky that it was football Sunday and nobody saw it happen, because it just did not. That's not Game 7. Now, maybe that means Denver's not the pushover that I have been touting them to be. But the Clippers only scored 35 points in the second half. Denver scored 64. That can't happen. And this is after the Clippers went into the halftime leading 63-47. That's a terrible second half collapse. Lou Williams scored 14 points. Montrezl Harrell scored 5, and I know he's not there for scoring or for stats per se, but energy and yaya gets you only so much. I'm not trying to hear that. If he's not going to be effective, then he's got to find somebody else to give his minutes to. He only played 15, but you got 33 out of Paul George. You got 25 out of Kawhi. They should be nervous. They need to be very, very nervous because this Denver team is not going to roll over. They've already, like I said, proven themselves one time. They got 34 out of Jokic in the last game, 21 out of Murray, 13 out of Michael Porter Jr. You got 10 out of Monte Morris. You got 16 out of Gary Harris. Yeah, you just they're not going to roll over, and I feel like this Clippers team expects teams to get out of their way as they make their way to their destiny to go play the Lakers, and that's not the way it works. That's not the way it works, and they're going to get sent home very unceremoniously if that's the case, and they deserve to. They They need to re-examine this offense. They're going to have to bring in an actual point guard, and I think they're going to have to let Montrezl walk because he doesn't bring you anything in the play. It's just not there. He's not bringing you anything, and I think we also see that to a certain extent, some of that small ball stuff might be going by the wayside too. If you don't have a very specific skill set, and even then, if somebody else can counter that with a similarly, not even equally, similarly skilled big, you're in trouble. Which leads me to my next topic, the Houston Rockets and their situation. James Harden says that team is one piece away. First of all, it won't be Mike D'Antoni. He has reportedly told management that he will not be returning. His contract is set to expired once they got eliminated from the playoffs. He is rumored to be a favorite for the Philadelphia 76ers job. But you know what's funny and kind of sad? For all the talk about Billy Donovan landing in Chicago, I think D'Antoni might actually be a better fit for the guys that the Bulls have. Ew. That disgusts us. That disgusts me. That disgusts me. No. Kenny Atkinson and a few others, but no D'Antoni, no Donovan. I think we've seen these before. We know what's going to happen. Let it go. Move on. No. But back to Harden, him saying we're a piece away. Remember, he said something similar before the CP3 trades and CP3 and Russell Westbrook trade. Said that he knows what needs to happen, knows the moves need to be made, basically, and boom, bam, you see what ended up shaking out of that. Is D'Antoni a part of that? You know, he wanted him gone. I think that'd be an interesting way to look at it, though, considering the fact that D'Antoni basically unleashed him to be what he is today, and that's the guy who dominates the ball and racks up all those gaudy stat lines. It's all for naught, though, so maybe James is just, continuing to run through scapegoats, but listen, I'm not going to sit here and act like Russell Westbrook played really good playoffs. Had a really good playoffs, but I'm also not going to act like Harden was who he was supposed to be late in games. Russell Westbrook is a supporting cast member. I mean, he's a co-superstar, but if we're talking between the two, he's Robin. He's supposed to be. Now, when Harden called him a leader, I thought that was more of like an emotional thing. It looks like that might have literally been he meant leader, and that should put questions in everybody's mind about Harden going forward. Some of the Rockets' playoff exits since 2014, you know when that was. That's when Harden got around. Damian Lillard buzzer beater. Lost to the Golden State Warriors in 2015. 2016, lost by 33 to the Golden State Warriors without Steph Curry. In 2017, lost by 39 to the Spurs without Kawhi. 2018, 27 straight missed threes, 2019, lost to the Golden State Warriors without KD. Curry had 0 points at the half. And this year, they lost 4 straight to the Lakers after winning Game 1. Heading back to the East, to the reigning and probably repeat MVP, Giannis met with Team Brass, and they let him know that they are willing to spend into the luxury tax to retain his services. Giannis is, of course, Supermax eligible this year, $220 to $250 million range. You've had a couple of point guards. The aforementioned CP3 has been rumored to be there. I don't know how that's going to work financially, but you've also had Derrick Rose linked to Milwaukee, and that'd be kind of cool to see him go there, get a chance to make a deep playoff run. I'm not sure if he's the difference maker that they need, but they definitely need somebody else who can create his own shot, and Rose can get you some buckets. CP3 can work too. I feel like he would need more shooters, but he's such a magician with whoever he works with. I'm done questioning what he can bring to the team and how well he can get them to play once he has had a chance to get on the court with them. The Eastern Conference Finals will be between the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat. I have the Miami Heat coming out. I'm going to say in 6. Man, I want to say 7. Oh, 6 or 7. Don't hold me on the games yet, but I'm gonna say Miami's gonna win this one. I'm scared though. I'm not gonna lie. This is probably my least enthusiastic pick that I've made all postseason, just because the Celtics are talented. They're equally spread. They're the Denver Nuggets of the East to me. I think they're really good. I'm not sure about great yet. I think that they're superstar of their team. Jokic for the Nuggets, Tatum for the Celtics. They're right there, but I think the Robins on those teams do a lot more heavy lifting than they get credit for, and obviously Jamal Murray and Jaylen Brown over in Boston. So I hesitate to give them full-on superstar stats, but they're right there. They're really, really close. And I think one of the things that you really have to look at is the duo of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And when you look at them, as I pull up their stats here, I just had the thing up. Now, the last 7-game series against the Toronto Raptors, you had Tatum averaging 24, 10 boards, and 5 assists, 42% from the floor. Jaylen Brown, 20 points per game, 8 rebounds, and 1.9 steals per game, 44% from the floor. Easy for me to say. These two are playing really well, and for all the multifaceted offensive prowess of Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown brings a two-way grittiness that I think they definitely need. And if they can keep these two together, there is a lot of success in their future. So don't be surprised to see this duo being dominant in the East for quite some time now. So that'll just be something to keep an eye on. But now, they also have, I think, the depth advantage. The Raptors' depth is there, but it's not as reliable. I that's probably just talking out of the side of my neck at this point. I don't think it really matters because most teams are just playing their starters a lot of minutes, and they match up fairly evenly, especially without Gordon Hayward there. OG Anunoby has stepped up nicely for the Raptors, but again, you got the duo of Brown and Tatum. You still got to deal with I'm talking about the Raptors again, like they're back in. Miami Heat. Wow. So I think the Miami Heat match up nice with the Celtics because of the physical nature of which they play. And then you have the perimeter prowess of Tyler Hero and of Duncan Robinson. Now, the matchup that I think is going to be key for this series is going to be Bam versus Daniel Tice. Bam Adebayo is very athletic and a very strong finisher. Daniel Tice, though, his ability to kind of muck it up, he's really a Heat player, but playing for the Boston Celtics, and he's been very effective for the Celtics this postseason. So be on the lookout for that matchup down low. I think that could be the key to this series. Whoever can establish their presence down low, I think will end up winning ultimately. Now, the Celtics have Robert Williams back there. You still have Enes Kanter. Can Kelly Olynyk help make the difference? Can they work that out? I'm not sure. We'll see. Myers Leonard, I don't know how that stacks up, but I think the Bam versus Tice matchup is one to watch and the key here, because you know what Tatum's gonna do. Jimmy Butler's gonna get his buckets. Jaylen Brown could be an X factor, but then you got Tyler Hero too, Duncan Robinson and Kemba, Goran Dragic, like Marcus. You know what I'm saying? Like you can they match up really, really well. Contrasting styles, but they still match up very evenly. So Bam versus Tice is the one that I'm keeping my eye on. And then lastly, and this is my favorite story because it gives me hope for the NBA draft soon to come. The date's been pushed back to November, and we'll talk about that more as it gets closer. But it's definitely a ray of positivity. The Golden State Warriors, per Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer, are said to be eyeing a wing player in the NBA draft. That's a Anthony Edwards or a Denny Avdija type player. But more importantly, that means that the Warriors, who were probably the Bulls, well, the second, because you still have Charlotte there, and who knows what Charlotte's going to do. But the Bulls' biggest roadblock to landing James Wiseman in the draft. Charlotte probably takes him. I'm fingers are crossed not, but if you assume LaMelo's gone, one, you hope. You just have to hope that the Warriors want Denny. I doubt that they do. I doubt that's the guy that they go with. But I don't see Anthony Edwards being a fit either with Klay unless they're planning on moving Klay to the 3. But that doesn't make much sense. You still have Wiggins there as well. unless they package that with that pick and try to get somebody, Ben Simmons or Giannis. Who knows? Doesn't seem like enough though. Wiggins and one ain't enough for Giannis. That's for damn sure. But Bulls are just that much closer to getting James Wiseman. So I'm happy about that. Hopefully that comes to fruition. And yeah, we'll hopefully get to see that be a thing, because I think that would be the pick that the Bulls need to make. I think that's the best. I don't want to say the best player, because I think LaMelo's the best player in the draft, but I think Wiseman's a very close number 2. And the draft that's not very loaded with talent. As of right now, I reserve the right to change my mind and go back and correct myself when proven wrong at a later date, as we typically are. But this one doesn't seem like a strong one to me, and so I would much rather see them go ahead and be able to land a James Wiseman than Isaac Okoro. No disrespect to him out of Auburn, but I would rather see a Wiseman. That's going to do it for this episode of Triple Zeros. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at JoshieBuck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports, the website, clockersports.com, and the email address, clockersports@gmail.com. Read the stuff, Last Word on Pro Football, Pippen Ain't Easy, clockersports.com, American Betting Experts as well. And until the very next time, you know what that is, man. It's the sound of the horns.